Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am so excited for this video. I have 3 magical Harry Potter themed cards and an emergency kit full of free printable sentiments to pair with them. All right, so here's our kit. We have a little bit of a Disney theme and then a Harry Potter theme and then a bookworm theme and then some new home sentiments. Dream big. Wishing you a day fit for a princess. Wishing you a very magical birthday. Happy birthday to my favorite muggle. Wishing you a day of mischief and magic. Wonderful wizardly birthday wishes. Hope this year is one for the books. Hope your day is stacked with joy. I put my book down to be here. That's it. That's your gift. Wishing you a year of fantasy, adventure, and romance. HBD to my favorite bookworm. And weren't we pleased to learn that book club is a euphemism for wine club? Happy new home. Congrats on your new Mojo Dojo Casa house. Congrats on your new home. I hope your new neighbors aren't weirdos. As always, we have these in circle sentiments, both with and without the circle. Then they are available in our new rectangular sentiments. And finally, they are available in our strip sentiments. I'm trying out a new font here where we had the sort of bubbly font before. I ran into some issues with it when I was printing and I decided it was time to switch it up anyway. So the other 3 fonts are the same, but that one is a little bit different. My downloads are completely free for subscribers, so I'm going to show you some card inspiration and how to use the printable, and then I'll tell you how you can get it. So we're going to start with this Harry Potter themed card, and I'm going to strip the background, okay? So I have a bunch of 1/2-inch strips of cardstock that I cut using my most used die set. It's just some slimline strips from scrapbook.com, but you certainly could cut these with just your paper trimmer. It's really easy. They don't have to be exactly the same size. It'll be fine. Then I have a packing label. For about 12 years, I ran a small business where I did a lot of shipping. And so I still have a ton of these like coming out my ears. And I like how easy it is. I'm not putting down glue. I'm not worrying about a tape runner. And the sticky is just right. Like I can pull them up if I do it right away. But then when I press really firmly, they're not going anywhere. So I am covering a panel slightly larger than A2. I'll trim it off. I'll take it to my trimmer and make sure everything's all squared up. And then we're good to go. This is the small die of the month from Spellbinders for March 2024, and it's so good. It has an owl and a book and an invitation, right? Maybe like a Hogwarts invitation we'll talk about later. But I just stole the glasses. If you don't have that die set, you can get something really similar but slightly smaller in the Gnome Drive graduation. That's the pair of glasses at the bottom. Then this is Rain or Shine, and it has the perfect lightning bolt, like you guys. It's so good. This one's been out for over a year, so if you watch Spellbinders sales, you can get it on a screaming deal. This is the kit back from September for large die of the month. It makes this gorgeous cupcake. I think it's called the Boo-licious cupcake, but it also has this broom, and we're going to use the broom. I thought about using the hat, but it didn't work quite the way I wanted to. If you were interested in creating a sorting hat, there is a die set that came out in the fall. I think it's the Halloween Wreath add-on. I'll double check. I'll link everything below. And it would make a pretty good sorting hat. And it's bigger than that one by a fair bit, which I think is great. So to make my broom look not like some random broom I'm going to sweep the floor with, but rather like a Nimbus 2000, I am taking just the back piece. We're not going to layer this up. I have 3 shades of brown marker and some craft cardstock, and I started with my lightest shade, and I'm just trying to get my outline really. I'm swooping it down to that point at the bottom. You guys, I am not an artist. This is not, I just kept flicking things, right? The darkest color right where it ties towards the top. And then I'm using also the bullet end at times to get a really thin stroke, so sort of wispy straw-like whatever pieces. Then I will take my scissors and trim around that. It also lets me clean up any of that marker business that was kind of outside where I really wanted it. From here, assembly is really quick, right? I'm just going to add that bottom piece onto the broom handle. And then there's a little piece that's like the tie that goes around it. I only had one cut out of black, and so I'm going to cheat. There's another piece that's like a little stick that gets cut out with the broom handle. I had that one in brown, and so I'll just add that right where that tie would have gone and clip it with my scissors. Piece of cake. Off camera, I made 2 more to sort of layer on my background. My white cardstock is an inch smaller than my A2 panel. So instead of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, it's 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And I'm just arranging all of my pieces on that background, and I'm holding up the mat for my sentiment to make sure I'm not covering up too much of the pieces that really make this card special. Once I have them where I want, I'm going to use a clear sticky mat and lay it in the bottom left-hand corner of that white cardstock. Then I can pick them all up at the same time and add glue all at once. Some people use press and seal for that, and it's great if it works for you, great, but like I am not that coordinated. And if it can bend on its own, I'm gonna mess it up. So this is helpful for me. I put my glue all over everywhere, and then I'm just gonna lay the cardstock onto the sticky mat. I actually just replaced mine. It comes, I think, in a 3-pack, and I cut it into small pieces. And the piece I've been using for the last like 2 years is finally not sticky enough. I couldn't flip it over easily anymore without die cuts falling off. Well, this new piece is crazy sticky. I've used it a bunch of times since I made this video. This was the first time I used it. And honestly, if you just set it aside for about 60 seconds to dry, let that glue set up and grab, it's gonna be fine. And you can peel it off really easily. But I was impatient, like I am, and tried to peel it off right away. Just don't do what I did, and you're gonna be just fine. So I trimmed off the edges with my scissors, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start assembling my card. Like, this comes together really quickly. I put my diagonal panel on my card base, and then I'm gonna pop up that white panel with some foam. It's like a 2mm standard foam. I'm an over adhesive, like that's just how it is. Then I'm gonna do my very best to get it centered, and it's pretty close. Not perfect, but pretty close. And I will take it. Then I'm popping up this 1 1/2 by 2 1/2 inch red rectangle of cardstock on 1mm foam. So I could still put this in a standard envelope, and it's gonna go through the mail just fine. This is the page from our printable that has rectangle sentiments. And I'm going to stick it in my trimmer, and I'm connecting the top and bottom tick marks and running my blade through it. But notice I did not cut through the top. Don't cut through the top, because you need the tick marks on the side to finish cutting. Okay, so then I rotate and I connect the tick marks. If I'm not using them all, I leave what I can connected, and I'm going to have a whole bunch of perfect 1 1/4 by 2 1/4 inch sentiments. This one says, wishing you a day of mischief and magic. And I love it. I love it. You can get the same sentiment in that 1 3/4 inch circle, or you can get it as a strip sentiment. So you've got lots of ways to make it fit your card. For card number 2, we are going to maximize the small die of the month. We're going to use it, I think, as it's designed. And quite frankly, if this isn't a Harry Potter owl, I don't know what it's supposed to be. Can I share something really, really exciting? When you go to the Spellbinders club page and you look at the small die of the month, like before you even click on it, just from all the clubs, this card, this is like the front-facing card. I'm over the moon and just so honored and thrilled that they chose my card. It makes me think that it was supposed to be a Harry Potter owl. For sure, for sure. So I'm just assembling this little guy. There's lots of deboss detail to let you know where things go. I cut him out of white and then some really, really pale gray cardstock. This one is from Tailored Expressions. It's called Sea Salt, and it is perfect for this. Okay, now this piece right here, I should have put on first. It connects to, I know it's not his ear, but I'm gonna call it his ear, the top right ear. And then it's supposed to tuck behind the wing. And normally I dry fit everything before I start recording, just so you guys get a more streamlined process and it's a little easier to follow, but I didn't. I was up past my bedtime. It's been sort of a theme lately, but everything else came together pretty easily. If you are watching this video as it comes out, it'll post on March 6th. That is the day that the March clubs open for new subscribers. So if you're new to Spellbinders clubs or you are new to the small die of the month, that's the first day that you can order it. And then that window is open until the 27th of the month. If you order in that window, these are an incredible bargain, and you get free shipping and you get 10% off all of your other Spellbinders orders for the month, which is a pretty rockin' deal. If you're watching this video after the month is over, right? It's March 2024. A lot of times you can still get these, but the price goes up. if you're watching this way after it comes out, then sometimes you can get some incredible deals on past clubs as they start to clearance them out. So definitely worth checking, even if you're not like right on top of this right as it's coming out. I just think all of the clubs this month are incredible. I mean, to be clear, I'm an English teacher and there's a heavy, heavy book theme running through most of the clubs. Plus, I read Harry Potter as it was coming out, right? Like, not the movies. I read the books and they were magical for me. They were life-changing for me. I didn't know that I liked fantasy fiction. I love fantasy fiction. So if you like books, if you're kind of a nerd like me, this might be a really great month to kind of check that out. I'm assembling the book here. I did do just a little bit of die cut inlay for the gold pieces, but only because I hate gluing on top of glossy cardstock or foil cardstock. Like, I don't know what it is. It might be my nemesis, like just maybe. Of note, right in the corner there, the two pages, the white pieces of the pages, but right up against each other. I thought at first there was going to be a little gap, but they don't. So maybe dry fit that first if you're not sure. Then this scarf, I love that they put all the dies together into like one piece, so I'm not going to lose anything. I just cut it twice, once from red, once from gold, and then it's really, really easy to assemble. There are debossed details to let you know where all of the stripes go on the scarf. To get my placement right, I sort of laid the tail onto the owl and then picked that up with the piece that goes around his neck. I found that that was easiest, just to make sure that everything was kind of where I wanted it, and then I glued the whole thing on there. To create a focal point for my card, I'm using the Fluted Classics ovals. If you've been around for any length of time, you know I love all of the Fluted Classics because it means I can do with one layer of cardstock what otherwise would take me two, right? If it was a regular oval, I would cut two, a smaller one and a bigger one. But I already have a book and then an owl and then a little foam tape. And like, this thing is hefty. Like, this is not a small card. I can still get this through the mail for a single stamp, I'm pretty sure. But it's not a thin thing. All right. This is the 3D embossing folder of the month. It's called the Classic Backdrop. I'm going to continue to gush through this video, and then I have another video coming out later in the month with 3 more cards using this free printable. I love books, but this thing can be used on almost any card, right? Like, it can read masculine, it can read feminine. It's got sort of a polka dot, sort of a stripe. It's so, so good. If you only got one thing for the month, I can't believe I'm going to say this, I would get the 3D embossing folder. It's just incredibly versatile and a great product for any stash. So maybe take a look at that. I'll have a link again to all the clubs, everything that I'm using in all of the cards linked below. I'll also link to the video I put out at the beginning of the month. If you want to see the other 3 cards I made, I've got a little sneak peek there. But then, yeah, there'll be like a whole nother video later in the month with that one. I'm going to use a strip sentiment on this card. So I take my sentiments and I trim them down the side and the middle so that the tick marks are touching both sides. It makes it really easy to put it in my trimmer and make sure that that tick mark is right on the blade. And then I know I'm getting a perfectly straight cut. My printer likes to print a little wonky, so after my first couple cuts, I do like a twist and flip maneuver just to make sure I've got a nice 90-degree angle in that bottom left-hand corner, so it's a little quicker to sort of motor through all the sentiments, but you wouldn't have to do that if your printer's better than mine. I'm going to go ahead and layer this onto a 3/8 inch strip of cardstock. I try to create the same margin on the top, bottom, and left, and then I trim off little slivers until the right side looks the same, and I'm good to go. I added the same foam tape onto the back of this guy so that the whole thing is on the same level, that oval and my sentiment. And that finishes up card number 2. You guys. Then there's this one. We are going to create a dreamy magical castle scene with an A2 panel, then 4 by 5 1/4, then 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And that pattern paper came from this magical paper pad from scrapbook.com. There are a couple of very Disney themed papers in here, but there's also a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily Disney, like those stripes and polka dots. I will use all of that, like every last scrap of it. So maybe worth checking out. Their paper pads are really fairly inexpensive, plus they're on sale all the time. And I thought it worked really well for this. I actually chose one that isn't overly Disney themed, even though when I grabbed that paper pad, I kind of thought I would. This die is the bonus add-on in the Deluxe Caboodle. And I'll be real honest, a lot of months, if I get the bonus item, it kind of depends. I don't get all the clubs. I get the small die, large die, stencil, and 3D embossing folder. So if that bonus item is related to one of those clubs, they send it to me. But I often don't use it anyway, because for many of us, the Deluxe Caboodle is just not something we're gonna buy. We're not gonna do that. It's a big purchase and I understand that, but I loved everything about all of the March clubs so much, and this castle really spoke to me. So that's why I'm using it in a dedicated card, where a lot of times, like back in January, the Honey Dipper that came with the sort of large die jar, I didn't use that. If you're new to Spellbinders clubs, or if you're not familiar with the Deluxe Caboodle, it's now the only value club they have. It's $120, but it's a 60% savings. You get all 3 die sets, so the small die, large die, and stitching die of the month, the 3D embossing folder and regular embossing folder, the wax seal, the hot foil, the better press, the stencil club, the stamp and coordinating die, and then this die set is that like bonus item for the month. It sort of changes from month to month what it's going to be. A lot of times it's a die set, but sometimes it's blending brushes or something else. So certainly it's something to check on from month to month. I wouldn't get it unless you like most of the clubs. I will link to that. I'll link to all the clubs. If you guys are going to do some shopping with Spellbinders and you use my links, they pay me a small commission from that sale. And you guys, I always appreciate it. Like, I'm just a small little channel out here trying to do my best and bring you inspiration. So thank you so much for joining me in this video and watching this far. I finished assembling my castle and I wanted it to look like it was floating in some like mist, some magical mist. So I'm adding some super light blue ink, just a little bit at a time. And then this is Delicata white shimmer ink. I love this stuff. It's not going to change the color of anything. It's just adding a very shiny layer right over the top of that blue ink. And it is gorgeous. I tried to hold it up to the camera and show the shimmer. It wasn't picking up, but trust me, it's there. It's super, super pretty. So I'm going to stick my castle sort of right in the middle of that blue ink. And then I'm going to add some glittery white clouds. Those clouds come from the Up in the Air View die set that came out like a month ago, 2 months ago. But certainly if you have that Rain or Shine die set that we used for the lightning bolt, there are clouds in that one too. So take a look at your stash, see what you have. I think there's a lot of ways to make that one work. I cut out a whole bunch of sentiments when I was cutting out the first one. So I'm adding this one onto a red strip of cardstock that again is 3/8 of an inch wide. And then I just trim it down to fit the sentiment. This one says, wishing you a very magical birthday. And I love that as a simple sentiment on this card. If you've been around my channel for any length of time, you know I'm a heavy die cutter and I really love creating like interactive mechanisms and things. And so for a card like this, like any of these, where it's really just about trying to showcase a theme or a die set or something that I was really inspired by, I like to add some foam tape and kind of pop things up, give it that little extra something as I'm going along, because it doesn't have some of the bells and whistles that I like to add to some of my other cards. So I'll pop that up and then a little bit more foam tape on the sentiment. I'll add some glue on there just to make sure I get that straight. And that will finish up card number 3, you guys. I hope this inspires you to try something new. I would love to know what you think of this printable kit for the Spellbinders clubs. I've never done that before, but if it's something people really like, I can do it again. So let me know in the comments below and let me know which of these 3 cards is your favorite. If you are interested in the free printable, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel. Once you do that, you can go to the description box below the video and you'll find all the instructions you need for downloading. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.